Hi Willie. I'm going to do a few videos. One on think. This is the one that I'm going to do right now. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's a genre, if you will, of various magic bits. The explanation will there's no performance here because, well, you have to think about a card. Um, the most obvious one would be Vernon's Out of Sight, Out of Mind. You show 9 cards. You split up the 9 cards in three, three, and three, and so on and so forth. And you go fishing, or you stop at that card. That's very, very strong. Another one that I like to do, I've seen Jamie and Swiss do it on TV. You just think of a card, and I show you 5 cards. Same thing, and I look at them myself. Let me see if I can do this a little bit better. Oops. And then you would fish for one of those 5 cards. That's not bad. One that I also do, and I may or may not have shown you this one, is by Bob Kohler. It was in Genie in 2000 or 2001 or 2002. I don't quite remember. You have a deck of cards, and you have somebody else shuffle the cards, and they make 4 piles, roughly the same size. You ask them to pick up any pile, look at those cards and think of one. Let's say they think of the 9 of diamonds, and then you pick up the piles, picking up their card as second from the top, and you do a false shuffle or a false cut, and then you cut about 20 cards. The reason why you cut about 20 cards is because you cut into their packet, if you will, and then you show the cards and you say, well, you still see your card? I mean, if you see a card, you just think of it and say, yes, I've seen my card. I say, well, it's very good. Just make sure that you think of your card, and then you double undercut 2 cards away and say, well, do you still see a card? And they say, well, no, it's gone. And you know it's got to be one of the 2 that you've cut away. And then you double undercut one of those cards to the bottom, and have one card on top. You glimpse the one at the bottom, and you have them hold out their hand, and depending on what they say, you either have them turn over the top card, or you turn over their hands, and the card is staring them in the face. If they should not see that, if they say, well, I haven't seen my card, then you double undercut, or you double cut 2 extra cards, and well, it's got to be one of those cards. In other words, you just keep adding cards until they see their cards, or you take away cards until they no longer see their card. And the first time they say no, you know where it is. Coincidentally, the minimum number of questions you need is 2. So if they see their card, you add 1, you take away 2, you know it's one of those 2. If they don't see their card and you add 2 and then now they see their card, well, really, you have a range of 6 cards or so. If you ask one more question, going either way, whether they've seen their card or whether they haven't seen their card, you add another 4, I think. So you really should get it with 3 questions. If you haven't got it with 3 questions, I like to take a chance. I don't ask anything anymore. I just assume that it's going to be one of the next 2, and you go fishing, or however you get there. That's also not bad. Anyway, so there's a few of those, but my personal favorite effect of that nature is by Derek Dingle, and I know you have the book, The Complete Works of Derek Dingle. It's a fantastic book, and when I started out in magic, there's 2 of the books that I got fairly early on in my magical career. One was the classic magical Larry Jennings, and the other one was Derek Dingle's, I think, The Complete Works of Derek Dingle. And well, I figured, well, I want to learn an effect, whatever the effect may be, and I looked through the book, and that's why I learned the card in the beer bottle, because the descriptions in American books particularly are always very, very glowing and gushing and what have you. You know, it's the greatest thing ever, and that's the greatest thing ever. And particularly Stephen Minch has a tendency to write like that, as you probably know. And for the card in the beer bottle, it said, well, the only thing that you could possibly follow that with would be walking on water. So I want to learn that. And this description of this Derek Dingle effect was he actually did this for Barbara Walters on TV, And after the show, Barbara Walters said to him, "Well, I understand all the card tricks and I understand the coin tricks. That's great sleight of hand, but when you read my mind, that was just way out there." And I'm taping this for you because you may or may not have tried this. It's one of those things you have to try for people. And the way it works is well, the way I do it is I just hold out a deck, I have a deck of cards shuffled, and I tend to say something like, well, some people they just say pick a card or whatever. I don't want you to do that. I just want you to just go ahead and just think of one. And the ideal is you say to someone, just think of a card, and you make this fan, and they can see the cards, and you, as it says in Erdnase, you covertly look at look at their eyes. Vernon used to say the one thing that is always that people miss when they read Erdnase is the little word covertly, secretly. You don't stare at their eyes, you look somewhere else, and you look at their eyes, and you can see their eyes stop for a second. And more often than not, they say, all right, and you can see their eyes continue around the fan, and then they stop, and you can literally see how their eyes lose their intensity. And the way this is, and you remember where they said stop, where they didn't say stop, where their eyes stopped looking, where you can see the lack of intensity. And the way Larry Daniel did that, and the way I do this, is you remember this, and you put your pinky wherever you think they stop looking, and you turn the cards over just briefly, and you know this is where they stopped looking. And let's say in this case, well, chances are they looked at the king of diamonds, possibly the two of spades, whatever. So you can go start fishing, and they say, well, your card was a red card, and let's say they say no, and I say, well, no, they're always red. They're always red from the back, but obviously from the front, I have no idea what the hell was it. And they say two of spades, and that's the first time they say the card, and you get the two of spades. Or when you go fishing, you are not off, and you say, oh yes, it was a red card. And you say, was it? And then you take out whichever card that it wasn't, and you miscall, and you say whatever. Let's say in this case, it could either be the four of hearts or the five of hearts, and you say, you're just thinking of the card, the four of hearts. And if it is the four of hearts, of course they go, oh yeah, that's just mind reading. If it isn't the four of hearts, I say, no, it was the five of hearts. So really, five of hearts, and you don't do anything, and then whatever the card was, and it changes without you doing anything. Obviously, it doesn't work all the time. It works an amazing number of times, really. It works typically, but you must have some decent out. I don't have a problem with outs. I don't have a problem pulling the card out of my pocket. I don't have a problem with, if you have some type of, Bertram change or whatever, or any other change. A nice change to do, by the way, is this change, but you could also do this change without doing anything, and just leave the card there, and then they repeat the card again, and then it has changed. Anyway, you have to have a few changes, a few outs, but it is a miracle if you don't have to use the out. And the drawback is you can do it for a lot of people, of course, but if you do it for a lot of people, the reaction plays off the one person that you do it for, because their eyes and their demeanor and their reaction says it all, because you really read their mind. To them, there isn't anything else you can do that's equally as strong, but for a group of people, well, they react to the reaction of that one person, and this is not the best effect for the rest of the folks, but for that one person, I mean, for that one important person, it's very, very strong, and you should try it. It's fun. It's not sleight of hand. I mean, it is sleight of hand, of course, because you need to do, I mean, the sleight of hand part is you need to be able to do a fan, and you need to, what I sometimes also do is just open my fingers a little, because that increases the chances of them stopping there, and then it's one of those two cards, for example. But you don't have to do that. It's more important is that you look at their eyes and see where they stop looking, and then you do this, and it sounds very esoteric, and it sounds, oh my God, nobody can do that. Yeah, you can, and you have to try it. And it's one of those things for magicians, it might work, but for lay people, and it also might work for magicians for that matter, it's very strong if it works, and it's still strong if you have a decent out. Anyway, I just want to share that with you, and that's it for right now.